Genes and the Code of Life. How genetics shapes every living thing. Imagine a vast library containing billions of instructions, carefully organized, incredibly precise, and responsible for building every living organism on Earth. This library exists inside almost every cell of your body. Instead of books, it contains DNA, and the individual instructions within that DNA are called genes. The scientific field that studies these instructions is known as genetics, one of the most fascinating and powerful areas of modern science. Genes are the fundamental units of biological information. They are small segments of DNA that contain the instructions for producing proteins. Proteins are the molecules that perform most of the essential functions in living organisms. They build tissues, regulate chemical reactions, transport substances in the blood, and help cells communicate with each other. In simple terms, genes provide the blueprint that tells the body how to grow, develop, and function. Every human cell contains about 20,000 to 25,000 genes, all packed into structures called chromosomes. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, which means we receive one set from our mother and one set from our father. This is why children often resemble both parents. Certain physical traits, such as eye color, hair texture, or height, are influenced by combinations of genes inherited from each parent. The idea that traits are inherited from parents was first studied scientifically in the 19th century by an Austrian monk named Gregor Mendel. Working with pea plants in a monastery garden, Mendel carefully observed how traits such as flower color and seed shape were passed from one generation to the next. Through systematic experiments, he discovered patterns of inheritance that later became the foundation of modern genetics. Although Mendel's work was largely ignored during his lifetime, it eventually revolutionized biology. The real breakthrough came in 1953, when scientists James Watson and Francis Crick, building on the work of Rosalind Franklin, described the structure of DNA. They showed that DNA has a famous double helix structure, often compared to a twisted ladder. The rungs of this ladder are made from chemical bases, adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. The specific order of these bases forms the genetic code, which determines how proteins are produced. One of the most remarkable aspects of genetics is that the genetic code is nearly universal. The same basic DNA language is used by bacteria, plants, animals, and humans. This means that all life on Earth shares a common biochemical system. In fact, humans share about 60% of their genes with bananas, around 85% with mice, and nearly 99% with chimpanzees. These similarities highlight the deep evolutionary connections between different forms of life. In recent decades, advances in genetic technology have transformed medicine and biology. The Human Genome Project, completed in 2003, successfully mapped the entire sequence of human DNA. This achievement opened the door to new ways of understanding diseases. Scientists can now identify specific genes associated with conditions such as cancer, cystic fibrosis, and Huntington's disease. Modern genetic tools have also led to revolutionary technologies like CRISPR gene editing, which allows scientists to modify DNA with extraordinary precision. In theory, this technology could correct harmful genetic mutations before they cause disease. Researchers are currently exploring ways to use gene editing to treat inherited disorders, improve agricultural crops, and even combat viruses. However, genetics also raises important ethical questions. Should scientists be allowed to modify human embryos? Could genetic technologies lead to designer babies, where parents choose their child's traits? How should genetic information be protected to prevent discrimination? These debates show that genetics is not only a scientific issue but also a social and philosophical one. Ultimately, genetics reveals something profound about life. Every organism, from the smallest bacterium to the largest whale, is built using the same fundamental genetic language. Genes connect generations across time, carrying biological information from the distant past into the future. In the end, genetics is more than just the study of DNA. It is the story of how life stores information, how organisms inherit their traits, and how a simple molecular code shapes the extraordinary diversity of life on Earth.